his wife because he was afraid of dying. And she watched her beloved husband have children with other women, which must have felt like a broadcasting of her inadequacy as a woman because she was barren for so much of her life. And even though the covenant said that God will make of Abraham a great nation, meaning that Sarah had to have children, it took and she was over 90 years old to finally give birth. And then, 37 years later, as the text states, it seems that her only son, her beloved son, was taken away from her as a way to test her husband's faith. An incomprehensible command from God, followed by blind observance from her husband. Not an easy life for our first matriarch, and it was one she took in stride. So with all of this in mind, it makes a little more sense why the mourning ritual and purchase of a burial plot is given such focus in the Torah. After moving through generations, hundreds of years in one verse, an entire chapter almost is dedicated to these negotiations between Abraham and the owners of the Machpelah, the cave that holds the graves of our matriarchs and patriarchs. Abraham realized that after such a long and vibrant and turbulent life of Sarah, his beloved, he wanted to ensure that she is given the proper resting place that she deserves. And also the title, The Life of Sarah, for a section about death, is also in line with Jewish tradition and ritual. Our morning prayer, the Mourner's Kaddish, or called Kaddish Yatom, is actually completely about life. Death is never mentioned in its words. And I know that for me, when I have mourned for loved ones, this reminder to focus on their life instead of their death, when observing a yard site, brings me comfort and reminds me of those positive memories. It's certainly not easy in the early days, in the early weeks, even the early years after someone's passing to focus on this, but it helps us process. And we're told that as time goes on, it helps us to deal with this new normal that exists without them in our lives. We can remember love, laughter, life, stories, and we can reflect on how their legacy impacts us even after their death. And this lesson also comes from our rabbis. In Torah Chaim, a very popular biblical commentary, we learned that we were taught that the righteous are called living even after death. Righteous people live righteous lives, yes, but they also teach others to emulate their actions and to find virtue within their own lives. And after these people pass on, their memory lives on within the minds and hearts of those who have learned from them, keeping their spirits alive. When thinking about this quote, the first person that came to mind was Dean James McLeod, who was the former Dean of Students at Washington University, my alma mater. Dean McLeod had a mantra, to know every student by name and story. It was a belief that permeated every action he took in his activities at WashU. And so when I sat down with him during my sophomore year, I was really amazed at the focus and curiosity he brought to our meeting. He didn't check email, never looked at his phone, was just genuinely there to get to know me. And whenever we would interact within my next several years at school, he always would wave and ask how things were going, which just